Hey everybody, welcome back to Lincoln Journal Stars 4 Downs. Luke Mullin and Amie Just here with your weekly Nebraska football practice report. As always on a Monday, there's a lot to talk about, but this was not a typical Monday. Athletic Director Troy Dannon, he was there. We got a statement from the Big Ten before Matt Rhule took the podium. Some very different things to discuss, and it has to go with a missed call, a blown call that cost Nebraska very dearly in this game against Ohio State. Emmett Johnson run that was incorrectly spotted. Should have been a first down. Nebraska, it was not called the first down on the field. The fourth down try was stopped. Ultimately, there were a ton more plays in the game, but a play like that, so huge, so crucial to the game. And Matt Rhule had a lot of things to say about officiating today, mentioned it's one of the hardest jobs to do, said he has a lot of respect for the officials, wants to stand up for them, but at the same time said consistency needs to be better, and these types of blown calls can't keep happening.
Yeah, so for those who don't remember or want to forget, the ball was spotted incorrectly. Going back and watching it, it looked like the ball was spotted where like the offensive lineman was rather than where Emmett Johnson was. And not only would that have given Nebraska a first down there, it would have saved, 30-some seconds to give Nebraska ample more opportunity to try to go for the end zone or at least extend things a little bit more. And so that's concerning. Now, I've already heard from a lot of Nebraska fans about what about the Jalen Lloyd spot and what about the OPI and what about Ryan Day's sideline warning that should have been, a foul on Ryan Day. No statement on those. Maybe a statement at some point today or later this week on the trash that was thrown on the field, but it is very, very rare for the Big Ten to comment on officiating things like this publicly. So for that, it's big because it just doesn't happen very often. Yeah,
and some of the differences with those calls too, obviously the pass interference, that's a subjective call. Some contact more egregious than others. Sometimes it's way more obvious, but where the ball is, that's simply where it is, and where it was spotted was incorrect. And it was a big difference in that game. This is going to be the officiating. It's been a topic of discussion for these last few weeks. And that's just what Matt Rhule's, I think he's just sick of it. That was just the vibe we got today. He's sick of talking about the officiating.
Yeah. And look, again, if it's a subjective, judgment call type situation, like the pass interferences, especially the super egregious one that didn't happen with Thomas Fidone a few weeks ago, that will haunt me forever. This cannot continue to be a talking point. And it sounds like, when a losing team complains about officiating, it sounds like they're being a sore loser, but the officiating in this game was atrocious both ways. There were multiple messed up spots for both Nebraska and Ohio State. It was just completely mismanaged, and something needs to change. And whether that be more training or just, more work in that regard. But yeah, it was a mess, and things need to continue to develop in the right direction because you don't want this to happen again for any game. It can't happen.
Yeah, Big Ten wants to be one of those premier power conferences, wants to put a good product out on the field. Well, officiating, holding that back throughout much of this season so far. So Matt Rhule addressed that topic. Something else he had to talk about, and you asked him about it in the aftermath of this game to Ohio State, the screen game. Nebraska, they threw a lot of screens. I had a statistic over the weekend. 10 of Dylan Raiola's 21 completions were behind the line of scrimmage. And, after the game, obviously he was able to react to that quickly. And he did give some of the same reasoning today. Yeah, they wanted to slow down that pass rush. But emphatically, when he went back, looked at the film of that screen game, and why Nebraska struggled there, he said, yeah, maybe there were some calls they'd like to have back. That was a big part of their game plan. They wanted to go to it, but he simply acknowledged it, said it wasn't good enough.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing he said on Saturday, just with a little bit more film to watch. It's so hard when you're asking very specific questions after a game because they haven't gone back and watched it. Yes, with the iPads now, you can watch a little bit more than you used to, but sometimes they just don't remember. It all kind of gets boggled together. But yeah, similar answer to what he gave on Saturday.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting too, because he was talking about, hey, they know the heat that they've gotten for that. And he said the players kind of feel bad because they see Marcus Satterfield, the offensive coordinator. They see the criticism out there, but they know it needs to be better. And of course, they're working to address that this week. And something that Nebraska is looking to carry over from these last 2 weeks, the losses, but the mentality shift. You look at the way that the Indiana game went, just completely steamrolled. Matt Rule said that the Huskers, they were trying to play for their pride, to really reestablish themselves against Ohio State. What he said in the aftermath of that game, that championship mentality that he saw in that team, well, guess what? They got to carry it over to this week or it means nothing.
Exactly. And you hope that they can do that. I think this is a much better test for them. Though granted, that Ohio State game was winnable. They could have won that game, and so carry those lessons over into UCLA bowl game. Now they're not going to want it. They don't want to talk about that. Matt Rule talked about that, obviously no duh, they know how to count, but that's not a point of emphasis this week. They just want to win, and whatever comes with that comes with that.
Yeah, that's not the narrative that this Nebraska football team wants to talk about. But, with all the discussion about officiating, how close Nebraska came against Ohio State, not a ton of topic talking about UCLA today. But what we did hear from Matt Rule, how this Nebraska team is viewing this matchup. The same thing he said 2 weeks ago against Indiana. He said, forget the logos. Any team in this conference can obviously win a game at any given time. And this UCLA team, very interesting. They have one of the best rush defenses in the country. They don't run the ball at all. They are the worst rushing team in the country, but they got a quarterback who throws for a lot of yards, throws for a lot of interceptions too. So going to be a game where you can expect a lot of passes. Nebraska needs to get that ground game going, or at least try to challenge UCLA in that way.
Yeah, and maybe throw the ball downfield, maybe.
Yeah, that's something that they've been looking to do, and will keep doing so. Drawn a lot of pass interference calls, but a couple on them last week. That was, of course, the big topic today here on Monday. We'll hear more from coordinators and players here on Tuesday. That'll do it for today's Nebraska Football Practice Report.